often find we the people deep into the early AM hours. That is rippinrabbithole.com. RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. We have just a few very simple rules. Please remain respectful to others at all times. Raise your hand when you have something that you want to add to the conversation, but most of all, have fun because this is a show for we the people.
Yes, it is.
Well, Red, we made it to another Wednesday. President Trump is not speaking tonight, so we are back on the air. We took the week off last week
Pretty much, yeah.
and watched President Trump in the backstage and then had a nice discussion following. We didn't know how long he was going to talk, so that's why we postponed the show last week. It turns out I think he only went about 18 minutes, so.
Nope. I was told 17.
All right, well, I saw 18, but either way.
There's some significance to 17.
There is,
but
to
whatever.
some people, and probably to some of our listeners, Red.
Yeah, well, I'm getting kind of further and further away from that right now.
All right, well, yeah,
But that's a different story.
But I can tell you, Red, we got to hope that our congressmen and senators wake the hell up and get the Save America Act passed.
But do they want it passed? And I'm sure that they don't want to pass it because a lot of them would lose their seats.
It foils their master plan. But
yep.
Well, I'll tell you, Red, we're in trouble if they don't. We've got a lot.
We are. Yes, they aren't.
We've got a lot of problems going on
safe
right now, and it really was glaring yesterday.
Exactly.
In Wisconsin here. We'll talk about that a little, for the entire night. And I'm sure that it's been a pretty emotional day for a lot of people. So I'm certain people are going to want to chime in on this one, Red. Of course, you and I, we were in Ripon yesterday.
Yes, we were in Ripon.
You and I, along with Flippin' Rippin' Rob.
Yep.
We're out doing some last minute sign waving for mayoral candidate John Sullivan, who was on AJ's show last week.
Yep.
Last Friday. And, well, I'll tell you, that was a close race.
It was.
It was a close race. He only lost by 100 votes.
Which, I know, like I said yesterday to some people in our little chat groups and whatnot, I know thumbs up, waves, and honks aren't telling the whole picture. But when when I'm used to seeing flip-offs and stuff like that, telling you naughty words, we'll put it that way. When we're used to seeing that when we're out doing these kinds of things, it was a nice change to have people honking and waving and giving us thumbs up.
And the reception was very, very warm. It really was for John Sullivan, and a really nice guy. And
so that honestly really surprised me.
And the thing is, we don't know about our elections anymore. We just don't know about them. We don't know. I mean, we know the problems that exist.
I was gonna say we don't know about the elections, or some choose to ignore the fact that these elections still are not fixed.
Okay, you're right. We know about a lot of problems in elections. The question I have is how far down do they filter, and how big is the problem when we get down into local races? Is it still in play? How much is it still in play? And I know you're shaking your head affirmatively, and I believe that happens. I'd like to think in a place like Ripon, a city of 7,000 people, that we don't have major problems, because typically in smaller towns, clerks know the people. They know the people that are voting.
They may, yeah, but that doesn't mean that they're not legitimate, fair people.
Maybe that's the optimist in me that wants to believe that at some levels.
I would love to have that optimism, but at the same time, with everything we've seen over the last 6 years, I have a very hard time believing that the little towns like that are fair and square.
The bigger problem we had with Ripon, I believe, is the number of people who didn't show up to vote, and I
Right.
think that was across the state.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Voter turnout was poor
Well, at the
again.
same time, I read AJ's article that he posted not long ago, talking about the Ripon race, the mayoral race, and he said, I don't remember the exact number now. I don't have it in front of me. How they voted, some people voted for the Supreme Court candidate, but then that was it. They didn't bother voting for
It
anything
was like
else.
47 people.
Why in the world would you do that? So then it makes me really question some things, and I know you know what it is, but people will argue with me on it, I'm sure. But I would think that, um, in my opinion, maybe it's because we go to vote every single time in person, but you always look at every single race and you make sure that you have your little bubbles filled in every single race. That way, nothing can be changed, nothing can be flipped in the machines because, yes, the machines will flip your vote. Whether you like to believe it or not, it's true. I've seen it done many times on the demonstrations. But also seeing how Brown County, well, I don't know if it was Brown County, I think it was just Green Bay, where people had double ballots being sent out. And then I had learned yesterday that Ripon did is, or I'm sorry, here I go again with Ripon and Racine. Racine did it as well. So how can you prove that you did not count both of those ballots if both of those ballots were returned?
Well, and maybe maybe Catherine. I see Catherine is in the backstage, and I know that she works elections a lot. I think in theory it shouldn't happen because you should be. I would think when you vote by mail, you're documented when that comes in, right? That you voted already.
Well, that's what they say.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. In theory, it shouldn't. They shouldn't be counting
but
two ballots from the same
but
person.
when they open the ballot, they separate the ballot from the envelope. So do they know who voted what? Oh wait, this one, yeah, I recognize this. Let's just toss it in anyway.
Okay, so like at Central Count in Milwaukee, they do have the poll book sheets, and that's how they check in the absentee ballots before they open them. But here's what maybe we don't know is those people that were getting the duplicate ballots. If somebody knows one of them, they should check to see if there's any discrepancy, like a minor discrepancy in on the envelope, like if the name was spelled a little bit differently on one rather than the other, or the address was a little bit off, but they were able to deliver it anyway, that kind of thing. Because, like Berniger and those guys, a bunch of people have proved in other states too that there's multiples of people, multiples on the voter list. So the problem could be, but I don't know why the address would be exactly the same. So it might have just been a clerk mistake, or, somebody sending out stuff a second time, or printing two sets of labels and not realizing it and mailing out two sets. More than likely, it is a stupid mistake like that somebody just didn't catch.
Right, and
But
I know in Green Bay, I believe the number that I saw was 116 people received uh, duplicate ballots when they requested
Something
their
like that.
absentee ballot, and at least some of those people were allowed to submit two ballots, and I don't know how they verified that, but I did read that this afternoon there were at least two people.
Yeah, and I was
Uh,
gonna say there was actually a legislator that put out like a press release, and I'm gonna read this really quick. Well, hopefully. Dave Maxey, State Representative, 83rd Assembly District, dated today. Wisconsin elections problems just keep getting worse. I'm disappointed. This week showed me exactly why so many Wisconsin voters have lost faith in our elections. The Green Bay City Clerk mailed out more than 150 duplicate absentee ballots to the same people. That's not a small mistake. When voters who already sent in their ballots started getting duplicates in the mail, you'd think the clerk would have to have a plan to make sure that those illegal ballots didn't get counted. Instead, she basically said, "Oops, system glitch," and wouldn't explain what she was actually going to do about it. And the sad thing is, these errors continue to happen again and again. I'm glad the Republican Party of Wisconsin filed a complaint against Green Bay to hold them accountable. One voter, one ballot. It's really it really is supposed to be that simple. When an election office can't even get that right, people start to question things. They lose trust, and they have every right to. How do we allow these major issues to continue happening? We need to learn from others' mistakes too, not just our own. Then, on election day itself, Wisconsin Supreme Court candidate Chris Taylor was reportedly caught recording campaign videos within 100 feet of the polling place in Madison while people were voting. That's illegal in Wisconsin, and it's called electioneering. A judge should know that. The fact that someone we just elected to our highest court apparently doesn't know basic election law is honestly baffling to me. The Wisconsin Elections Commission and appropriate authorities need to investigate both of these situations. We need election officials who actually care about getting this right, and we need candidates who understand and respect the law enough to follow it. That starts with holding people accountable when they fail. It's time Wisconsin voters see some consequences for election failure. So I want to give him big props for finally coming out, having somebody like that come out and say what we've been screaming for 6 years.
The problem is we need a lot more coming out and supporting what he just said. And I agree with you, Red, that he deserves big props for coming out and saying it. But he suggested that maybe Taylor didn't know about these rules. I don't believe that for a second.
That I think he was being sarcastic.
Not only was she a Supreme Court candidate yesterday, but she also served in the Wisconsin State Assembly for
right.
a few terms. She's been down this road before.
Yep, she knows.
But
and Catherine says he is the chair of the Assembly Elections Committee. I have been sharing some of my info with him, so thank you for doing that, Catherine. Sorry.
You can call me Kathy. I don't care.
Okay.
And again, we need
It's a
more.
habit.
We need more representation like that.
Exactly.
And one way we can get away from a lot of the problems that we're seeing in Wisconsin is one day in person on paper hand count. It's really quite that simple.
To that one, he was a younger guy. I say younger as in younger than me. So I would say late 20s, early 30s maybe. And to me, that's young. And he just kind of looked up from his phone like, huh, oh well.
See, there's a whole lot of people who don't vote, and we ran into that yesterday when we were waving signs right there. And this was an older gentleman, like my age, older.
Yep.
And in a mobility scooter,
Yes,
came around the corner, saw Red holding a sign for John Sullivan.
Almost crashed into him.
said, "What is this all about?" You explained a little bit about John Sullivan, and
he said, "Who's the current mayor?" And I'm thinking, you don't even know who your mayor is? I said, Grant, thank you. I said, Grant. He goes, "Oh yeah, no, I want that guy," and pointed to the sign to Sullivan, and he goes, "But I'm not going to vote." And he's heading towards the polling station.
He's within 300 feet of the entrance to the polling station.
Yeah.
Maybe 500 feet.
Well, at least a city block and a half, because that's about how far away we were.
Well, like I say,
I don't know how
with
many feet they are,
500
but
feet.
we were far enough away. But
Well, we were.
yeah, but he was heading straight towards it.
And he stopped and went into the tavern.
Yep.
But didn't go cast a vote, and that would have brought John Sullivan one closer. And then when you factor in
How
the
many
number of people
people
who voted
do
for the
that?
Supreme Court candidate but didn't vote down ballot,
Right,
that outcome could have been much different for the people of Ripon.
right.
But I know that this has been a hot topic, and I haven't spent a lot of time on social media today, but I've spent enough time there that there's a lot of finger pointing going on.
Yep.
Who's to blame? Who's to blame? And I'm seeing some point at the electorate, people not showing up to vote, people sitting out the spring elections, the poor voter turnout, and I'm seeing other people pointing at party leadership,
Yep.
the failure of the Republican Party of Wisconsin.
Well, the thing is, I was in the backstage talking to somebody last night, and I don't know if they want it to be known, so I'm not going to say. But anyway, I said, tomorrow we're going to probably hear the same thing we always do from the county parties. We need to get more Republicans out to vote. And that's as far as it goes. And yes, we do. Okay, I'm not going to lie that or argue that. But that letter that I just read, that's one reason why people don't bother to go out and vote.
See, I think there's some of that.
I'll agree. But at the same time, when are they going to talk about the cheating? When are they going to talk about all the things that are wrong and let their party members know? Because a lot of the party members still don't know about it. So yes, we do need to get more people out to vote. But they also need to educate their members and let them know what's actually going on.
Well,
That's just my opinion.
Party leadership is failing in a big way, and I hope that somebody wants to chime in on what they think about party leadership. And I look at the RPW. Yeah, raise your hand if you have something you want to say. I look at the RPW leadership and the failures that I see from leadership in leading this party, and to use a sports analogy, I watch a lot of sports, and one thing they will talk about is when a coach loses his locker room, what is the first thing that happens? They don't replace the players. They fire the coach once he loses the locker room, because they know that once the locker room is lost, you can't fix it anymore. And that's really what we have with the RPW, in my opinion. Unless the leadership is replaced and we just start from scratch, we're in big trouble. And this Supreme Court race yesterday was huge.
Yes.
This was a huge loss for the state of Wisconsin, because down 5-2 now.
Yep.
I'm going to be a very old man by the time the right is able to.
I thought you're already old.
Well, I am, but think about this, Red. We're looking at, I'm going to say we're looking at 15 to 20 years.
Now, she doesn't get sworn in until, I believe it's August, if I remember correctly. But and I can never say her name, so I'm going to take a play out of Harry's book and call her, when Potato Chip got elected.
Janet Protasewicz.
Thank you. I can never say that one. Anyway, when she got elected, there was a lot of complaints filed, and I would think that you would not get sworn in with all these investigations, which I'm sure they never investigated any of them. So are they going to do the same thing with Chris Taylor? Or are they going to actually, potentially hold off?
For what reason, though? On what grounds? The electioneering?
Not just that. She's committed a lot of election fraud stuff.
But
or
I mean, let's face it, they
maybe
haven't
not
haven't
fraud,
removed a sitting Supreme Court justice yet.
exactly.
The likelihood that all of a sudden they're going to come in and make sweeping changes, in my opinion, is pretty slim.
Mm-hmm.
And down 5-2, you don't flip that. You don't flip a Supreme Court back.
No.
In a couple cycles. This is a decade out at least.
Oh yeah.
I'll be 75 years old before we see it swing back the other way, unless something were to happen where they came in and made sweeping arrests, and I just don't believe that's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Anyway, someone says, well, here he says in the backstage, we had no good choices in the Supreme Court race, and I agree
And I think,
because there was so many people that I talked to that said that they had to literally hold their nose to vote for Taylor, or not Taylor, Lazar. Sorry. And I was watching the results last night, and as they're getting updated, and I don't know what the final total was, but at one point it was up to 1,026 or something like that for write-ins. And I know that's not going to swing a race one way or another, but that just shows you how many people are angry. They don't have a choice.
right, I know there was a lot of talk about the concern about her as a candidate. Now, to my knowledge, she was the only one who stepped up, and clearly there wasn't a, a primary.
No, there wasn't a primary for either race, so
And Harry points out that Taylor is a criminal, smurfing among other things, and I mean, hopefully something at some point, all of this stuff that's being exposed by Election Watch and hot government and the things that they're bringing to the forefront. Hopefully, at some point, we see those arrests being made and people being removed from roles like this. But until that happens, we're still sitting with a 5-2 disadvantage in the Supreme Court.
well, and I will say that Mary on YouTube says 15 to 20 years. Will this country still be around if things follow on this path? I have to agree with you 100%.
And when we talk about we talked about this earlier, President Trump's executive orders that he keeps dropping, and with the hope that someday our congressional and senators will wake up and start passing some effective laws that will help with the elections. People like Taylor and this new Supreme Court, they're going to fight every executive order that comes down from President Trump
Oh, yeah.
regarding elections.
Yeah.
And we had a hand up in the backstage. So,
I'm sorry, I
Catherine,
didn't see one.
I did see your hand, and I apologize.
I apologize.
Go ahead,
I
Catherine.
didn't see that.
That's okay. So two things. I have met Lazar. I've heard her speak like 3 times. She was a better candidate than either of the men. The sad part is she probably didn't get the news coverage. She didn't get any assistance, enough assistance from the party and people. She was lacking in funds. I gave her donations more than once, but there were a lot of people aren't doing it. And here's the scarier part. I heard today on one of the, I was in the car and I heard on one of the shows, might have been O'Donnell, that the next one up is another conservative one
Mm-hmm.
next year, 27.
Yep.
So it could be 6-1.
Yep.
Yeah, and
I've heard that too.
Because she doesn't want to run again, because she doesn't want to be on there and have it be worthless.
right, and I think she sees the writing on the wall. I really do. I think she sees that it's an uphill battle at best to
Mhm.
retain that seat, and she's stepping down. And you're right, we could be facing a 6-1 deficit in the Supreme Court, and think about that, where that one goes. Flippin' rippin' Rob, you have your hand up.
Hey everyone.
Hey,
As far as yesterday goes, it wasn't for a lack of trying on our part with such short notice of a incumbent, but we really gave it our all, had a lot of fun. And the only thing, just a few points. Um, Honestly, if I had to bet, I didn't think it would be that close. And I hate to be negative, but being a liberal town, even though a lot of people say it's not, well, it's a liberal college. And that's always going to be a factor in any election that we have. But the fact that it was that close does say a lot, but it also really hurts my feelings because all the keyboard warriors, all the people that want to complain about the status of Ripon, the roads, the taxes, everything else, they're the same ones that didn't vote.
exactly.
And they didn't make the time, but they're gonna continue to complain and bitch. And this is what you got.
Exactly.
Right, and Rob, what you bring up a good point, and I've been at this for a long time, working on campaigns, and it's always been the same struggle. How do we engage that segment of society that just doesn't care about voting? And I don't know. I wish someone had the magic answer to that, because it seems like it seems like unless President Trump is on a ballot, we have an awful lot of people willing to sit it out.
Yep.
And then sit on their keyboards or sit at the bar stool and do nothing but complain.
Yep.
And I think we got bigger problems coming in Wisconsin. And I think it comes, we've got midterms coming up in just a few short months, the primary,
Oh yeah.
and we don't have a choice for governor at this point.
No, but we
And-
do have somebody that is from, and I'm gonna say Turning Point because I don't care anymore. But somebody from Turning Point on the western side of the state that thinks it's a brilliant idea to jump over to the other case or other side and vote for a specific candidate. And I won't say which
No,
candidate.
I would say the candidate,
Okay.
because it's frightening.
He
Right.
wants us to vote for Hong because Tom Tiffany can beat Hong. Really? Really? You really
Well-
think that
well,
he's going to beat Hong?
he-
With the cheating going on, it's going to turn out like New York. So just be prepared, people.
You're playing. I said it then, and I'll say it now. You're playing with fire when you play those games,
Yes.
because
Yes, you
E-
are.
even if you believe your candidate is going to win the general election, you've got to keep in mind, what if my candidate
Mm-hmm.
doesn't win, and maybe he doesn't understand the cheat factor that goes on, and maybe he thinks we
No,
can
I don't think he does.
outvote the cheat. Whatever he thinks, you're really playing with fire to cross over into primary, because
Yep.
we don't have a candidate or a primary for the governor's race, and vote for the most liberal of the top three candidates
Yeah,
on the left,
New York
and
style.
try and move that person onto the general. That is just crazy talk to me.
It is.
And
But Rob, we'll get you after the break. So hold on for a minute.
all right, so now we're going to start the music again. We don't have a whole lot to talk about, Red, tonight, because we don't have any events coming up, but I do want to talk about the We the People assignment that
Yes.
is very, very important. It might be one of the most important things you can do aside from voting. And that's to write a letter on behalf of Harry Wade,
Yep.
asking for the court's leniency on his sentencing, which takes place June 2nd.
At
And
8:30
th-
a.m.
There is a Harry's Army Facebook page,
X,
X,
Telegram,
Telegram,
and Signal.
and Signal. And if
You-
you can't find it, I mean, obviously Facebook, you will be able to find it. But if you can't find the other ones, contact us at either Harry's Army 2026 at gmail.com or screechowlscott@gmail.com, and we will hook you up, because we've got
Bulleted
we've
points.
got bulleted talking points that you can include in your letter. We're asking for handwritten letters. We don't want chain letters or form letters where somebody just writes a letter and a bunch of people print it off and sign it. We want these personal letters, handwritten, so that when the judge and his staff open them up, they're not getting that form letter, which when
They're not
we,
reading the same thing over
and,
and, over.
and we've talked to some legislators, and they said that these are just not effective. The form letters are not effective because they open one and they read it, and then
And
every
then
other
toss
one
it
just goes
aside.
in the circular file. So
Yep.
handwritten, and we've got some really great bulleted points. And
You
we've
don't
got,
have to use them all. You can use them all if you want, but
Pick
do
and-
not copy and paste what is written.
pick
in
and,
the
pick,
bulleted
pick and
points.
choose the ones you want. Make it a personal letter.
Make it your own
and,
words.
and use some of the bulleted points that are provided, because these are the things that will hopefully resonate with the judge and impact his decision on June 2nd, because our number one goal right now is to keep our good my dear friend, our dear friend Harry from serving any time behind bars. And we're going to put pressure, and we want thousands and thousands of letters to reach Judge Johnson's office.
Exactly. We do not want Harry to be Tina 2.0.
No, and so
And they're already heading down that path, and I don't like
we're
it.
taking some preemptive strikes, and we're going to overwhelm the judge. So please,
And please let us know when you do. You don't have to send the letter to us, by all means. Just say, hey, I sent my letter.
and I can tell you folks that we've had a lot of people already say, I've written my letter, I've submitted it, and
You know, if we couldn't get you down to Racine during the trial, this is your way to help as much as you possibly can, and you don't have to travel.
and it's going to cost you 75 cents or 80 cents, whatever a stamp
I don't
costs you
even
nowadays.
know
I don't know
anymore.
what. And I'm going to tell you folks, if you can't swing the 80 cents for a stamp, let me know, because I'll send you a few quarters, and we need to do this. This is again, aside from casting your vote, this will be the most important thing you can do this year, is to write these letters and become a part of Harry's Army and preventing Tina Peters 2.0 right here in Wisconsin.
Exactly, because the only thing that Harry did was he tried to show us how one way they can cheat. And in my opinion, we've seen that in Brown County and Racine with those duplicate ballots going out.
So like I say, a lot of letters have been sent already. The judge already has, I'm sure, has some of them in his possession already.
Probably.
And hopefully he's started a nice thick file or a 3-ring binder that he can keep them all in as he's considering the sentence that will take place on June 2nd.
Exactly.
So we've beaten that. Music will end very soon.
That's
The way it
what
goes.
you usually do.
And as soon as this music ends, we're going to go back to Rippin'. Rob has his hand up again. Our buddy from Ripon, who we stood on a street corner with yesterday. Rob, you have the floor as this music now comes to an end. Timing is everything.
And obviously,
No, I started typing because I figured it'd play for a little bit. I was gonna say, and it was cold out yesterday, and I didn't dress properly for it.
neither one of us did.
Oh,
I had to go get a hot
should have been
coffee.
smarter. Should have been smarter,
Well,
but it was worth it.
the wind
Standing
I
across the
wasn't
street.
expecting, so.
Well, I was standing across the street from the American Legion, and I had my earbuds in, listening to patriotic country songs, and a lot of them fit the moment. And I just look across the street and look at the flag, and this is exactly where I need to be right now, doing what I'm doing. But to Catherine's point, after I'd made my comment about the college in town being an influence, I have to agree that if you're going to college, and I'm going to equate this to being in the Marine Corps, well, if I was living on base, I couldn't vote for anything local, not to my knowledge. And at that time, why would I be thinking of such a thing? But we had liaison officers that if you did want to vote for something local in your own hometown, you could get the proper paperwork and have that municipality send you proper ballots for whatever election that you wanted to get a part of. And with that, where I'm going with that is you have an individual or a student come into, say, Ripon College, and they're paying their fees or their dues and everything else. But if they're living in campus dorms, then how do they, with the same premise that I'm giving an example to of being in the Marine Corps, how do they have the right to vote in our local elections when they are just a student status? It's no different than somebody coming over here on a student visa. I would hope that they are not allowed to vote in our local elections. And that's something to research. But it just doesn't make sense. Now, if they want to get a ballot for whatever race from their hometown, so be it. But for a college student to influence, if they're going to college anywhere between 2, 4, 6, 8 years, to influence that municipality, I think is atrocious, because then they just leave. And a body, like a campus of that size should not have that kind of influence on a local government or magistrate.
Yeah, I get your point, and I think that that's always been the case too. That college students can choose to vote in the town they're going to school, or they can vote in their hometown.
And I
Well, I
was
think
out
they can actually, and where's the monitoring? Can they double dip?
exactly. I
You
was
know, can,
always under the understanding they had to vote where they came from. Like, if they
no,
lived
they
in
bust them in.
Minnesota.
They bust them in right from the college, especially when it was a presidential race. They bust them right on in. And but now, how is if WEC and my vote cannot secure ballots? How can they secure election transparency and accountability to make sure that a student isn't double dipping from their hometown and the town that they are going to college in?
Corey
And
says the ERIC system is supposed to catch that.
right, and we know there's supposed to be a lot of catches available to prevent some of this, and we know that it doesn't always happen. Uh, AJ the Rippin' Rabbit wants to chime in, and he's written a couple of really good articles actually like 4 or 5 of them, maybe half a dozen over the course of the last week and a
Week.
half.
Well,
Go to
week,
the
yeah.
Rippin' Rabbit Hole and check those articles out because 2 of them came out today, and maybe he's going to speak on that. Go ahead, AJ the Rippin' Rabbit.
Well, I wish I could say I was wrong in the articles that I put out before this election, and unfortunately, I can't.
hmm
So this is my takeaway. If the people of Wisconsin truly ever want to take back real control over their elections, then the answer is simple. It's not complicated. Show up in person on election day and cast your ballot with your own hands. And I'll challenge any Democrat or Republican to prove to me that they did that. I think way more Republicans in the state of Wisconsin decided to take the lazy route and ordered an absentee ballot because they're trying to fight fire with fire. That's the new gold standard. Supposedly, it's the cleanest chain of custody that an average citizen can personally control is to show up in person in that moment.
hmm
Now, I'm going to ask you, Scott. I'm going to ask you, Red.
hmm
Did you vote
Yep.
in person
Yep.
or did you vote absentee?
I
We
voted
we
in person
we walked into the polling place and cast our vote.
at 10:30 in the morning.
Now, did that make you feel a little bit funny in a
No.
way? Did that make you feel a little bit authentic
Oh,
in the moment?
I thought you
Were
were
you a
gonna
little
say
bit
it.
nervous
Oh gosh, no, we
doing that
weren't
procedure?
nervous.
And maybe it's my age group, AJ. That's the way. I mean, I remember the first time I cast a vote when I was 18 years old. But then it was on a small piece of paper. It was much different
And you
than what it
dropped
is.
it in a box.
Where I grew up, there were no tabulators. You dropped it in a box, and the poll or the poll watcher people counted them at the end of the day, hand counted them, which is what we should be doing. Uh, and I would never, I mean, short of something happening to me where medically or whatever, where I could not make it to a poll to cast a vote, I would never
Mm-mm.
use this early
This is
voting.
this is a COVID introduced mechanism that the quicker people of Wisconsin, especially on the conservative right, realize the danger of what they're engaged in, you're never going to win.
Right, and
Now, let me take that a step further in my questioning of your experience in voting in person yesterday. How many people were in the room with you?
I think we had a half a dozen people.
Yep, and about I would say when we were leaving, probably 4 or 5 more were coming in.
So what if everyone who voted in that election, not from March 20 whatever till yesterday, what if everyone who voted in that election was in that room? Would you possibly have seen people from your community that you know?
I'm sure I probably would have.
Would you probably have snickered over to Red and said, well, I know how they're voting?
I-
Why take that away from the public? That is the one moment where you, the voter, not the bureaucracy, not the party, not the mail stream, not the Dropbox, not the quote unquote trust us class, is physically present from start to finish. Everything else asks we, the people, to surrender certainty and replace it with an absolute blind faith. Yeah, but what's worse, that blind faith is blocked by the evil word procrastination. And if you train a public that, oh, you can order your ballot, you can sit at home in the quiet and the comfort of your own home and cast your ballot. Well, how many people say not today?
Well, you want to think about it a little bit more. If you are a military voter, you can actually vote by email now.
but
Well,
we we do have to make some exceptions for our military, and I'm okay with that.
Yes, but email.
look, indefinitely confined is set up for exactly that.
Exactly.
If you're indefinitely confined, then by all means, please exercise your civic duty and vote via absentee ballot. But there is no excuse, none, for any person to get out there on election day and vote.
I completely agree with you. So AJ, maybe you have some ideas because I know you've written some really incredible articles in the past couple of weeks, and I'm looking forward to the one now where I, do you have ideas? Because now when you think of this young 20, some of these turning point people that Red was referencing, who are 24, 25 years old, who came up through that COVID era where it was let's vote by mail, and we had, and turning point was they were pushing, that vote early crap.
Yeah.
How do we change that mindset and encourage that generation to want to go to the polls?
Well, I think it starts with ourselves. And I think it starts with ourselves living in reality. And after everything the state of Wisconsin has seen, blind faith is exactly what millions of voters no longer have. They don't have that. That's why absentee voting, it shouldn't be pushed. It shouldn't be encouraged. It shouldn't be romanticized or normalized or sold as a harmless convenience without consequences. It's absolute BS
I agree.
that any conservative, any Republican in the state of Wisconsin, or for that matter, the country, has the balls to order an absentee ballot and cast their ballot that way. Show up at the polls
It takes
on
less than 5
election day.
minutes.
Every extra hand, every extra step, every extra transfer point, every extra opportunity for an advantage is mishandling our elections.
Right, and with the absentee ballots and the early voting, we also have that group of people that we need the Monday count bill now so that we can get ahead of, because all these ballots are coming in early, and gives you another opportunity to influence that cheat that
Yep.
that we hear about.
We
And-
don't even have to say the 4-letter C word cheat. Okay.
Yeah.
We just, what we have to get back to, and this spring election showed Wisconsin very clearly that trust in elections, it's not there.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we'd see a better voter turnout on election day.
Right.
Needless to say, how many losers decided to take the easy route and said, "Oh, I might be busy that day. I'm not going to." And these are Republicans.
Right.
These are conservatives. These are our people. This is our side. And they're going to put their blind faith in a mechanism which Harry Waite is going to stand in front of a judge and be sentenced for, exposing the vulnerability that we just blindly trust. BS.
Well, you
If
know,
you voted absentee ballot, shame on you. And I
I-
said that in
well,
one of the
you know,
articles.
the founders of this country never said that we had to make things easy for people to vote. It's an honor and a privilege. And if you want to be part of that honor and privilege, you make a point of going out there and getting in your car, driving to the polling station, wait in line if you have to. But you know what? Every time I've gone in, it's taken less than 5 minutes. Yeah,
Well,
yesterday it took us
and
maybe 3.
therein lies the problem, Red. Therein lies the problem in Wisconsin because few people are asking the questions. And it doesn't matter. I remember being in civics class and my teacher told me there are no bad questions. So if you ask a question, it deserves an answer. And trust in elections is not built by asking people to ignore those questions. It's by reducing the number of questions that actually need to be asked in the first place. And let's be honest, anyone still encouraging any voter to casually toss their ballot into a system that they themselves admit is vulnerable, it's like asking them to play Russian roulette with our confidence.
I agree.
Maybe
Now,
nothing goes wrong. Maybe everything works perfectly. Maybe your ballot is handled exactly as promised, but maybe, I'm sorry, it's not good enough.
so AJ, what do you take of? And I learned this from your article today about Ripon. There were, and I may remember the number incorrectly here, but I think you said there were 47, maybe 67 ballots where votes had been cast for the Supreme Court, but none of the down ticket votes were happened.
47.
Yeah, 47.
So I mean, when you think about that, how as close as that race was, how quickly that outcome could have been so much different.
Oh, absolutely. It could have been, it should have been that much different. But there is a mindset that exists with this whole perpetuation that absentee ballot is a way to do elections. Because, like I said, the number one, you got the procrastination factor where, oh, I'm going to get to that ballot tomorrow. And every day is ticking away. And the closer that you get to not actually preparing yourself for your most sacred civil duty of voting is a day you're ticking off the clock. And by the people that actually go through the process and return these ballots, just by requesting them alone, let's not even look at returning them, okay? Just by requesting them through the My Vote portal, which Harry Waite's trial suggests is not even statutory legal way for obtaining your ballot, you're providing them not what we know to be true in years past of exit polls when people actually leave the polls and they get quizzed by reporters. Hey, how did you vote? Those are exit polls, right? What we've got going on in Wisconsin and in other states in this nation is we've got entrance polls where the vehicle that they say is vulnerable free is actually calculating the totals before the vote even happens. So, this mentality that everything is probably fine, that's not a standard. People walking around in blind faith saying, well, it should be okay, that's not a standard. Harry Waite tells us, the experts say, trust us. The state says, trust us. WEC says everything's okay. But I'm sorry, that's not a standard. And if people like you and I are expected to accept election outcomes peacefully and confidently, then we have every right to demand the most direct, transparent, citizen controlled method possible. And it ain't ordering your ballot online 10 days before that moment comes.
So given you mentioned all the players in this, the RPW, WEC, whomever, whatever legislators might be saying it, turning point. It's going to then come down to us to educate the people about voting in person.
We don't need legislators. We don't need WEC. We don't need the assembly of Wisconsin to change the laws. We need to wake up as we the people. We need to understand that that mechanism is no longer a way to securing our elections. And the quicker we understand that, honestly, I don't believe that there's any value in the primary. We got one candidate. If you're a conservative red Republican in the state of Wisconsin, what good is the primary to you? You should be thinking about the general at this point, and you should be marking it on your calendar unless another candidate enters the race and you actually have a choice for the gubernatorial race in Wisconsin. You should be marking November on your calendar. You should be telling your boss, I'm taking the day off. You should be recruiting your 10 friends to get registered and vote. Instead of ordering absentee ballots, you should be saying, hey, meet at my house at 9:00. We'll go down to the polling station together. That's what we need to get back to. That means same day. That means cutting out as much of the unnecessary uncertainty as humanly possible. Because the larger problem is that way too many political operatives and party functionaries like the RPW and Turning Point and individual influencers treat absentee voting as though it's just as sacred as voting in person, when in reality it exists in a vacuum. Like, it doesn't have any psychological cost, no civic cost, no impact on confidence. Bullshit. And I'll pay the $20.
It's your
That is
rule.
nonsense.
I'll pay it for you.
That's more distant mentality. The voter is it's separating you from the process. And the act of casting the ballot, in that moment where you get those butterflies, where you see people in the room and you say, I know how they voted. That's what we need to get back to. We need to fill those rooms. We did it once before. Thank God. We were a red wave and it was too big to rig. The more room that there is for suspicion, for argument, second guessing, the more we're going to see this process collapse. And the only way you can eliminate that is to go back to same day in person. That doesn't mean, don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean every single absentee ballot is bad. I think it has a time and it has a place. And if you truly are indefinitely confined, by all means, if that's your ability to exercise your civic duty, then use it. Don't abuse it. And I'm going to call BS on every single person in the state of Wisconsin that used that excuse that is absolutely 100% not indefinitely confined. If you voted absentee ballot this week, shame on you. If you're buying Starbucks at a drive-through tomorrow morning, shame on you. If you're filling your gullet with McDonald's, shame on you if you think you exercised your civic duty.
I
What you did is you followed a system of compliance, of acceptance.
you know
And you need to break that habit. You need to get off those Big Macs. You need to stop buying the grandes and brew your own coffee at home. It means the system should never be built around asking us normal people, we the people, to be comfortable with these types of layers where we can't see, where we can't control, we can't audit for ourselves this process.
and boy, I hope we can get back to that point. My concern is that without there being, laws in place that require in person, on paper kind of voting, that all of the people who are going online and having some employee at a grocery store pick all their groceries out and then just driving into the parking lot and texting a number and they bring them out to the car. How do we get that group of people to actually want to take the time to go vote without there
Well,
being laws in place?
and I took a picture yesterday in Ripon, curbside voting. Since when can you not park your car?
I felt
If you're
like it was a
handicapped, there's
Starbucks.
handicap parking. Go inside.
That's the most pathetic sign I've ever
I
seen
know.
enabling a generation of citizens that are lazy. And shame on you if you fall into that category. As blunt as that, can you tell I'm fired up?
I can
Yeah.
tell that, and you're pretty, you represent what I've seen on social media today pretty well. You say it a lot better than a lot of the people that I read on social media, but there's a lot of emotion today,
Oh yeah.
The
as you
sad,
are well
the
aware.
sad part, Screech,
What's that?
about social media is a lot of these people that are, I almost racked up another $10, complaining are the very same problem we're talking about. They ordered their absentee ballot. They voted a week ago. Shame on you.
I agree, and
Citizens
and
like you and Red, who showed up at the polls, like Rob, who was number 61 in Ripon. The people that showed up physically to vote yesterday, top hats off to each and every one of you. Tell 10 of your friends and do it again next time.
right,
Because citizens should not be guilted into embracing a process that nobody trusts. We need to encourage ourselves to use the method that gives us the highest confidence our vote was cast directly, clearly, and beyond dispute. So, yes. Am I fired up? Yes.
boy, and if we could get,
People
if we
need to
could,
be told plainly. They need to hear this plainly. If you care about control, if you care about confidence, if you care about reducing risk, then vote in person on an election day. It's not that hard. Don't flirt with uncertainty and then act shocked the next morning as the division and the mistrust grows.
And boy, if we could get back to that point, think about how much better I would feel about elections, because I walk in now and I cast my vote in person, but I know because of the things that we've learned over the past several years, I don't know if the outcome is real or how accurate it is. But boy, if we could get back to a point where everybody goes in, at least I would have some faith that our elections are being handled the right way. Corey,
But you genuinely believe that they're not. You do believe that in your heart of hearts. You've studied. You understand what Harry was put through. You do not believe, otherwise, you wouldn't be there in person. So don't feed a system that you quote unquote claim to doubt
all right,
and then
I doubt
complain
it.
about that the doubt remains. And don't let anyone shame you into thinking that the most secure and common sense choice is to somehow order an absentee ballot. That's extreme. It's not extreme.
Well,
To leave the ballot in your hands, your presence on the spot, you get to vote and cast directly in that process without any kind of unnecessary detours. That's not paranoia. That is civic responsibility.
and Corey points out that in Green Bay there were 6,429 absentee ballots sent out, and of that number,
Negligent.
only 5,120 were returned. So 1,300 people received their ballot, but didn't.
20% of them couldn't even return it after receiving it. That's the procrastination factor. But what's worse is that all day long we heard mainstream spin doctor medias out of Wisconsin saying, "Oh, there's been a steady stream at the polls," but yet you see emptiness. You see nothing. You don't see that steady stream. You don't get to witness the people that lazily sent off their ballot. If they did so at all, those numbers are remarkably high. 20% couldn't even return the damn ballot.
AJ, look at what I sent you for that screenshot of Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, digital echo chambers exists, but what I'm saying is directly to that point. You walk into a crowded city hall, you walk into a crowded polling station, you snicker about a couple of the people that you know in line and you know how they're going to vote, and you count the other people that look like you, that sound like you, that talk like you, and you hope that they're going to vote like you. That's custody. That's confidence. And until we get back to that, this is about whether citizens, not just in Wisconsin, but in the nation, still believe that they're participants in self government. Otherwise, we're just spectators told to trust whatever happens behind the curtain. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. And if control means anything, it means showing up in person, doing it yourself. Everything else is a gamble. And a people serious about our future and the future of our republic need to stop gambling where certainty is impossible.
Without a doubt, AJ. And folks, we are up against the hour, but AJ, I want to thank you for chiming in tonight, because you are truly fired up tonight. And folks, I would recommend you go to rippandrabbithole.com and read some of the articles that AJ has put out in the last 2 to 3 weeks, because they are all spot on, and he uh, just excellent articles to read, and share them out with people, because there are a lot of people that need to hear the things that, and share the show out, because AJ is so in tune with what needs to happen, and he says it so eloquently that share the show out, and let people hear this. It's so
Well,
important that we get back to voting in person.
it really truly is. Thank you. I'll let you land the plane, Scott and Red. You guys do a great job. Top hats off to you for showing up and doing what you're supposed to do yesterday. And I don't know where or how we got off the tracks, but we need to get it back.
Well, and I thought about that too, and I'm old school, AJ, because I came from that time when everybody voted in person, unless you were going to be on vacation and you arranged with your clerk to receive an absentee ballot, or you were indefinitely confined. We voted in person when, as I was aging, and it changes how you campaign as well, because had I thought about the fact that, and I'm in Ripon, I'm thinking there aren't that many people who requested absentee ballots. So, a quick get out the vote message on election day with waving signs, you miss whatever percentage of the people had already cast a vote or mailed it in or, whatever. And so it changes like that to some degree, because we really needed to be out in the streets to in from that window when early voting opened up, and making sure that John Sullivan's name was in their mind when they went in to cast an early vote.
One last point. I don't mean to interrupt you, but Nikki actually heard the rant. And of course, Nikki grew up in Germany. And she just brought up a very, very valid point that is alarming. That didn't even come up in my rant. I didn't even think about it. But we're so lucky right now to have the opportunity to vote. Just wait until that opportunity is no longer. When you don't have the ability to exercise your civic duty anymore because of these types of processes, that's alarming. That's why we need to change this now.
It really is, and and to kind of piggyback off what you just said, one of my guests from like a year and a half ago, Myra from Green Bay, who actually ran for the Brown County Board, and she's now an American citizen, and did it the right way. But when she was on the show and she talked about what an honor it is to go in and vote, and how excited she was when she was able to cast that first vote as an American citizen, and how seriously she takes it.
Absolutely.
Boy, the people in our own, people who were born and raised here, the people that sat yesterday out, could learn a lot from that young lady, or people like Nikki, who came from, what you just said. And
if you've got the ability to use your vote, you better do it. You better do it, because the moment you don't have the ability to use a vote anymore, that's coming. If this wave, if this trend doesn't change, that's coming.
I hear you, and that's a scary thought. That's a scary thought for those of us who take it seriously and understand what we stand to lose. All right, well, thank you for chiming in tonight, AJ. Love to listen to you, and you were definitely fired up tonight. Folks, that's going to be our assignment now. We need to go out there and educate our neighbors and our coworkers and our friends about the importance of voting in person. And it doesn't start after they pass the SAVE Act. It starts now, and it's on us to make sure that we go out and we cast our vote in person, on paper. With any luck at all, they'll hand count them too, but it starts with casting that vote, going into the polls. And I don't know, Tim Rampton and I had the opportunity to talk to Joe Oltman a couple weeks ago, and he talked about engaging the youth and maybe, tossing a football around or a frisbee. And maybe we have to find some way to make voting day fun and get them to come to the polls and cast a vote. Whatever we have to do, but we have to do it in person.
Well, I bought the frisbee, but I didn't think to bring it.
So we'll have to bring a frisbee next time, and maybe some of those Ripon College kids will want to toss the frisbee around with us as they're coming in and out of the polls, Red. Anything else to say, Red?
Nope.
So, folks, that's your assignment. Encourage people to vote in person. We've got big problems in Wisconsin, and I fear what's coming down the pike in November. I'm concerned about this governor's race, and I think the left is motivated right now, and they're probably energized by what happened yesterday, and they're looking for a trifecta in November. And boy, if they get it, we are in a world of hurt if they're able to flip everything. And then the people who are sitting it out are going to come to realize that maybe they should have voted, because things are going to change in a bad way in Wisconsin.
I agree, and it's going to end up being that maybe it takes letting it burn down to the ground. Maybe not. I don't know.
We'll see. Well, Red, we're going to stop wasting your time. Why?
Because we have a republic to save.
Have a good night, folks. We'll be back tomorrow night, and of course, AJ will be back on Thursday night with another episode of Rippin' Rabbit Hole Live. Have a good night. I believe we are off the air. Go ahead, Rob. You have your hand up. I'm just going to go to another page quick and make sure everything is clear, but I think we are.
I had my hand up while you guys were finishing with AJ. But anyway, what I was going to say is, what if it comes to a time that people are not coming in person? This isn't too far off. Just hear me out. Not enough people are coming in person. What better way to save money for a municipality than, you know what, mail-in ballots are probably the way to go. We can have less people that, because nobody wants to volunteer to be poll watchers anymore, or part of the poll system. So